And I've got a dash in a sec because I'm in the chamber to speak against this bill, but it's so heartening to see so many of us here today. I just wish that we didn't have to be. This bill is a de facto ban on the right to seek asylum because the vast majority of refugees don't have any official legal route to reach this country. If you're facing religious persecution in Iran, there is no scheme you can apply for. If you're the victim of torture in Eritrea, there's no visa you can obtain. And for those fleeing Afghanistan, they were promised protection, but they've been totally left behind. Do you know how many people from Afghanistan arrived here onto the second pathway? 22. Not 22,000, just 22. I'm sure the over 8,000 Afghans who tried to cross the channel last year would have much rather have come here legally on a plane, but those routes just weren't available. But of course this bill isn't really about stopping channel crossings. They're trying to distract us from the fact that after 13 years of Conservative government, the country around us is crumbling. There are mothers surviving on their children's leftovers, NHS workers queuing for food banks, and people dying as they wait for an ambulance. And meanwhile, the UK's billionaires increased their wealth by over 150 billion since 2020. It's a disgrace. The Tories love playing divide and rule, but we're not going to fall for it, because whether they're from Britain, Ukraine or Afghanistan, working class people have more in common with each other than they ever will with people like Rishi Sunak. Let's not forget, he's a man who uses so much energy to heat his private swimming pool that his entire local electricity network had to be upgraded. We've got to fight. We've got to fight not only to defeat this bill, but to completely overhaul the way that migrants and refugees are treated in this country. We've got to open safe routes. We've got to expand the right to family reunion. We've got to give people proper housing, not let them languish in B&Bs and hotels. We've got to give asylum seekers the right to work. And comrades, we've got to close every single detention centre and end every single hostile environment measure. And we've got to tell those Tory MPs sitting in the chamber of the House of Commons right now to stop the dehumanising, denigrating, disgusting rhetoric that they use to talk about refugees. People arriving on our shores are not an invasion, they're not queue jumpers, they're not criminals, they're not illegal, they're people just like you and me. And I'll finish by saying this. It's not asylum seekers who are a threat to people in this country. It's the government sitting opposite us. Let's defeat them. Solidarity.
Nadia Whittome! Okay, we're going to keep it coming thick and fast because the MPs are kind of running out, doing a little speech, running back in. So now I am honoured to introduce to you Caroline Lucas!
Well, thank you so much for being here to stop this illegal, immoral, deeply cruel and divisive bill. Here to call out those Tory ministers for deliberately and dangerously stirring up hatred with their grotesque and dehumanising language. Here to express outrage at a piece of legislation that breaks international law, that runs roughshod over human rights, and which shames us all. We are here to say that this is poisonous, performative politics at its worst, and Britain deserves better than this. a moment just to reflect on some of the numbers that the government keeps rolling out, pretending that somehow the UK is uniquely generous when it comes to asylum. As you know, nothing could be further from the truth. The UK takes far fewer refugees than any other average EU country, far less than France and Germany, fewer than 17 other European nations on a per capita basis, and far, far fewer than the countries neighbouring those from where 70% of refugees from the global south have fled. And let us remember too that behind those numbers and statistics are real people. People with families and lives and hopes and dreams. In the words of the British Somali poet Wasan Shire, no one puts their child in a boat unless the water is safer than the land, unless home is the mouth of a shark or the barrel of a gun. And locking up anyone seeking sanctuary is a blatant and unacceptable breach of the UK's international commitments. No wonder the UN High Commissioner on Refugees has warned that this bill would amount to an asylum ban. Yet this Tory government doesn't care about legality. This government actually doesn't even care if its rotten policy works. It only cares about dividing and ruling. It only cares about stoking more culture wars. It only cares about picking a fight with the European Court on Human Rights for cynical electoral gain. The one thing you can be sure it doesn't care about are the human beings caught in the crossfire. Well, friends, I am proud to be here because all of us do care, and we are standing with millions of people right across this country to say refugees are welcome here. Millions of us have this message for the Home Secretary, and that is that if you want to save the lives of those risking their lives in small boats, then you need to provide safe routes to enable people to come here safely. They need to work because, you know, I have Afghan constituents who are stuck still in Afghanistan trying to use the so-called ACRS Pathway 3. That's supposed to be a safe route. It hasn't accepted a single person since it opened in June last year. I want to say a quick word about the climate emergency because as well as refusing to do its fair share to tackle a global refugee crisis, this government is actually making it worse. It's making it worse by failing to act at the speed and the scale that the crisis demands when it comes to the climate emergency. And we will see many more millions who are forced to flee their homes. Friends, Fortress Britain is already here, built by Tory cruelty. And we must tear it down. And that's why I'm proud that at the Green Party's spring conference this last weekend, we passed some new immigration policy. That policy was based on more generous family reunification rights. It was based on scrapping no recourse to public funds. It was based on ending rip-off fees for migrants. It was based on ending detention. And it was based once and for all on abolishing the Home Office and replacing it with a department that is finally fit for purpose with justice and compassion at its heart. So friends, when we have a government so willing to break international law, when we have a national broadcaster, frankly, that is bending to their will, it is more important than ever that voices of humanity and compassion are heard. Tonight, my friends, those voices are your voices, they're our voices, and together we say, refugees are welcome here. Refugees are welcome here. Refugees are welcome here. Stop the bill.
Caroline Nicholas. Okay, the debate in Parliament is continuing. So let's remind them that we're still here.